Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss A Man for All Seasons, starring Paul Scofield, Robert Shaw, Orson Welles, Wendy Hiller, Leo McKern, Susanna York, John Hurt, Davenport, and Vanessa Redgrave, directed by Fred Zinnemann. Now, I have not seen this one before, so let's just get straight to this one. Cardinal Wolsey, played by Orson Welles, summons Sir Thomas More, played by Paul Scofield, to his palace, at Hampton Court, desiring his support in obtaining a divorce from the Pope so that the king can marry Anne Boleyn, played by Vanessa Redgrave. As Wolsey chastises Thomas for being the only member of the privy council to argue against him, and the performances by every single actor in this movie was tremendous. Even Paul Scofield, who won the Oscar for Best Actor in this role in the year 1967. But everybody else is also tremendous in this movie. When Thomas states that the Pope will never get granted divorce, he is scandalized by Wolsey's suggestion that they apply pressure in order to force the issue, as Thomas refuses to support continued efforts to secure an annulment for Henry VIII, played by Robert Shaw, from the Pope, as legal and religious options have been exhausted, provide no grounds for the Pope to issue an annulment. And this movie is well shot the entire time, as the cinematography looks great throughout, and returning by a river Thames ferry to his estate as Chelsea, Thomas finds Richard Rich, played by John Hurt, who's a young acquaintance of Cambridge, waiting by the dock for his return. And the costume designing was well done, as this movie is well done and well made. An ambitious young man who is drawn to allure the power, Rich plays with Thomas for a position at court, but Thomas, citing the various corruptions there, advises him to become a teacher instead of Thomas, entering the house, and he finds his daughter Meg, played by Susanna York, with a young Lutheran named William Roper, played by Corinne Redgrave, who announces his desire to marry her, and Thomas, a devout Catholic, announces that his answer is no, as long as William remains a heretic. And this is based on material by Robert Bolt, and the dialogue is well written. And I really do like these characters, and as I feel for them when I go through the good things versus bad things, when I pity them, as Wolsey dies banished from court in disgrace, having failed to something like that, a divorce from the Pope. King Henry appoints Thomas as Lord Chancellor of England, and this movie does a great job at telling the story, as I credit that to director Fred Zinnemann, as it's his vision. Soon after, the king makes an impromptu visit by a barge at Thomas's house in Chelsea, and to inquire about his divorce. Sir Thomas, I guess is what he's called, not wishing to admit that his conscience forbids him to dissolve what he considers a valid marriage, remains unmoved, and the king alternates thinly veiled threats with promises of unbounded royal favor. And when Sir Thomas, finally refers to Catherine as the queen, the king explodes into a raging tantrum, which was pretty funny, as he storms off in a huff. King Henry returns to his barge and orders the oarsmen to cast off, and the costume designing is amazing in this whole movie. His courtiers are left to run through the mud and into the river to catch up, as the king laughs hysterically as their predicament, while at the embarkment, Rich is approached by Thomas Cromwell, played by Leo McKern, who is a member of Henry's court and political adversary of Sir Thomas, and Cromwell subtly inquires whether Rich has information that could damage Sir Thomas's reputation. So I guess for the rest of the show, the main character is known as Sir Thomas. So in exchange for a position at court And the plot is well told by director Fred Zinnemann, like I said before. William learning of Sir Thomas's quarrel with the king, revealing that his religious opinions have altered considerably. He declares that by attacking the Catholic Church, the king has been the devil's minister, while a terrified Sir Thomas begs him to be more guarded as Rich arrives, pleading against for a position at court, and when Sir Thomas again refuses, Rich denounces Sir Thomas's steward as a spy for Cromwell, and now Sir Thomas and his family, including wife Alice, played by Wendy Hiller, learn the ugly truth. Rich is being manipulated by Cromwell to spy on him, while a humiliated Rich leaves Sir Thomas's family pleads with him to have Rich arrested, with Sir Thomas refusing, stating that Rich, while dangerous, has broken no law and is seeking a position to court. Rich enlists Cromwell's patronage and joins him in attempting to bring down Thomas, while King Henry, tired of waiting for an annulment from the Vatican, redefines the Catholic Church in England by declaring himself supreme head of the Church in England, and he demands that both of the bishops are Parliament renounce all allegiance, and the Holy See, with more quietly, resigns his past as Chancellor rather than accept the new order. As he does so, his close friend Thomas Howard, 3rd Duke of Norfolk, played by Nigel Davenport, attempting to draw his opinions out as part of a friendly chat with no witnesses present. But however, Sir Thomas knows that the time for speaking openly of such matters is over. And there's a good reason this goes along with the Columbia Classics, as it earns its place in the Best Picture Classics, in my opinion. But can I just say, this is the 3rd character I brought up this showing that is named Thomas. There's the main character, Sir Thomas, and then there's Thomas, and there's Thomas, and just everybody's named Thomas in this movie. It's not funny. The king will not be appeased, as he demands that Sir Thomas attends his wedding to Anne Boleyn, as Sir Thomas refuses and is summoned again to Hampton Court, now occupied with Cromwell, while Sir Thomas is interrogated on his opinions, but refuses to answer, citing it as his right under English law. But Cromwell angrily declares that the new king now views him as a traitor, which makes sense as far as the acting is concerned, and is tremendous acting by the actors. Sir Thomas returns home and is met by his daughter Meg, as Meg is informing him that a new oath about the marriage is being criticulated, and that all must take it on pain of high treason, when initially Sir Thomas says he wouldn't be willing to take the oath provided it does not conflict with his principles. But one issue for Sir Thomas is that the king cannot declare himself to be the head of the Catholic Church, as the head of the Catholic Church is the Pope. However, an expert in the law, Sir Thomas, knows that if he does not state why he is opposed to take the oath, he cannot be considered the traitor to the king, as Sir Thomas refuses to take the oath and is imprisoned in the Tower of London regardless. And I feel bad for Sir Thomas, as Paul Scofield does a great job with the performance, as he's the best thing about the movie, in my opinion. In spite of bullying tactics of Cromwell, the subtle manipulation of Archbishop Thomas Cranmer, played by Cyril Luckham. And I swear, there's too many characters named Thomas. Was that a popular name at the time? And the pleadings of both Norfolk and his family, Sir Thomas remained steadfast and his refusal to take the oath, but when he is finally brought to trial, he remains silent until he is, after being convicted of treason on the perjured testimony of Richard Rich, and he is then informed that Rich has been promoted to Attorney General for Wales as a reward, which seems pretty messed up. And if it weren't for the plot of the movie, Sir Thomas would have been next in line, excuse me. Now having nothing left to lose, Sir Thomas angrily denounces the illegal nature of the king's actions, citing that the biblical basis for the authority of the papacy over a Christendom, as he further declares that the immunity of the church from state interference is guaranteed both in Magna Carta and in the king's own coronation oath. As the spectators scream in protest, Sir Thomas is condemned to death, which will lead to a sad ending. So far as this is a sad climax. A narrator intones the epilogue, saying Thomas More's head was stuck on the Traitor's Gate for a month, and then his daughter Margaret removed it and kept it till her death, while Cromwell was beheaded for treason 5 years after Sir Thomas, and the Archbishop was burned at the stake, and the Duke of Norfolk should have been executed for high treason, but the king died of syphilis the night before Richard Rich became Chancellor of England, and died in his bed. And this climax was absolutely tragic, as this is a well done, well shot, well made movie. But how well done was this movie? Let's talk about it in a rating. I'll give this movie a 8.5 out of 10. The performances by every actor was tremendous throughout. Even Paul Scofield, who won the Oscar for the performance in the year 1967, is really good, and it's well shot, as the cinematography looks great throughout, and this is a well done, well shot, well made movie in my opinion. Robert Bolt's material is well written, and I really like the characters, as I felt bad for them when they go through good things versus bad things, when I pity them. While the movie does a great job at telling the story, as I credit that to director Fred Zinnemann, as it's his vision, and the costume designing looks amazing in this whole movie. The way Fred Zinnemann directed this was well done, as it earns its place in the Best Picture category and in the Columbia Classics, and this is a solid recommendation for this movie, as the plot is well told by director Fred Zinnemann, as this was a very good movie with some tremendous acting. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me, and next time we'll be back with Tootsie, I think is what it is. Let's take a look. Yep, Tootsie. And until then, good night, everybody, and make sure that the light shines in you.